Yes, Doda.
Oh, I was just stopping the video. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, but there you are. Okay.
Well, I wasn't going to be on video today, but well, I think it's being recorded. Hello,
Yeah,
everyone.
I don't understand because it didn't even start yet. So I'm
Well,
thinking maybe it's the other class that's being recorded.
I don't know. We'll find out maybe.
But it's hello, nice to see you.
Well, nice to see you too.
Yeah, you don't see me now
Yeah, I
though.
don't see you now. Yeah.
Okay, let me change it because I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
There, there I am. There you are.
Wow, amazing, not true.
What happened there? Somebody's joining?
Hmm.
We don't know who it is though, right?
No.
Uh, So you're having breakfast or lunch? Oh, wait a second, you're in LA. I still get so confused, time-wise.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth. Good morning.
Oh, well, it
Thank
depends.
you.
Where are you? What
I'm
coast?
in Riverside.
California?
Yeah.
So it's
Oh.
good morning. Okay. I'm in New York, so for me it's good afternoon.
The class didn't start yet. We're just waiting.
That's a very nice robe that you have on, Michelle. That's very nice.
Oh, it's a jacket, actually.
It's a jacket.
Uh-huh. Thank you, though. It's yeah, it's like a big sweatshirt kind of thing.
Oh, with no buttons, no kosher. No.
It might be a button somewhere, but like not, button down or anything, just one button across. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Yeah,
very
it's
nice.
very nice. Yeah. I've had it
With
a
the
lot.
hood. With the hood.
No, but it could be used
Oh.
as it's just like why are we talking? I'm going off video. Goodbye.
No, why? I never get a chance to see you. So
We could do a Zoom by ourselves also,
I know,
Mary.
but we don't, do we?
We
You look
could.
very well. You look very, very well. Yes.
Well, Hashem. Well, Hashem.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of changing my name to Malka. I mean, using my.
Oh, on the why not? There are a lot of Malkas
Yeah,
around.
but maybe I should be Malky. I don't know if I'm
No.
Malka.
Well, you are Tanta Malka for many
Mm,
people.
that's true. Boy, I really hope this is not being recorded. I really, really, really. Oh boy, oh boy. I don't know. Maybe I should Malka. Should I put Malka on my screen name?
Our Hebrew name has a lot of significance. And it's ironic that I started using a cleaning lady 4 hours a week. No, 4 hours every other week. And she's from Peru, speaks English well, with an accent. And I don't know why, but at some point she said to me, "You're a queen."
Mm.
She said, "You're a queen." So I
Isn't
said,
that nice?
she said, "I have a Hebrew name, and it's
And it
Malka,
means,
and it
wow.
means queen." Yeah. So there
Uh,
is. I mean, now I don't know why. I mean, I'm nice to her. I
yeah,
give
yeah,
a
I'm
sandwich.
sure. Hmm.
Well, she's very pleasant too. But
No, but not everybody does that. It's very nice.
but so there is significance. I wish I could get a better video of myself. I don't like the angle. I'm trying to angle it differently so you don't
That's,
see such a big nose. Trying
oh,
to.
I really hope we're not recording.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes.
Ay, 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 ay. By the way, if somebody else is on, oh yeah, Elizabeth Malka with the hat. Oh, we both have hats today. This is my aunt. My
Oh,
aunt is in New York and I'm in Los Angeles. Just to clarify on the recording.
and that we, have what with to catch up on.
Yeah, yeah,
We
that's
don't
true.
speak that often. Yeah.
But we could.
Yeah, I have a problem with the phone, I think.
No, I know that. I know that.
Yeah. Did your
Now we
mother
could.
well? Did your mother also like take a long time until she called somebody back, or didn't really look forward to it.
Oh, no.
No.
But she didn't. I don't recall her spending a lot of time on the phone. She did not. But no, not that I recall.
Mm.
Oh, did you
Well,
hear the baby's new name? The new baby's name?
yes, isn't that nice?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Is there a meaning for her middle name?
Yeah, Rachel, I asked, Eugene said it's Noah's Rav's mother-in-law. And they say she was very hospitable person,
Oh,
woman
oh, oh.
from
Yeah.
San Paulo.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if she was born
It's the
there.
rabbi. Hello, Rabbi Czapnik.
What was it? 1 second. All right. Good morning, ladies and gents. This week is you have Parsha facts on your table already. 2 sheets there. This week is a combination of 2 portions, Behar and Bechukosai. The last 2 portions in Chumash Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. Behar and Bechukosai. Everyone see this? Okay, that means we're finishing the 3rd of the 5 books this Shabbos. A lot to accomplish here. Now, sometimes Behar and Bechukosai are not together, but you'll see they are together. And so last week we talked about Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying God's name. And how do we do that? So by keeping Torah mitzvahs, by having faith, and making decisions based upon that faith. Later on today, we're going to be discussing 2 questions. At least 1 question for sure, God willing. Does Judaism have a response to Christianity and Islam? So we will talk about that, God willing, as well. But first, the Parsha begins that it's called Bahar, referring to Har Sinai, Mount Sinai. And these are the commandments that were given at Mount Sinai. So really, this is like all other commandments that were given at Mount Sinai. And really, the question, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, of blessed memory, says very beautifully that there's an underlying theme. We want to know, why do we have to do this and that mitzvah? It's a legitimate question, but the first answer is because God commanded us. And that's what happened at Mount Sinai, where God revealed himself, which we'll talk more about next Sunday night at 6:30, God willing, about the holiday of Shavuos. God revealed himself at Sinai and gave us the commandments. So the reason we have the mitzvahs, there's a lot of deep understanding that we're going to go along, but God commanded us. And this week's Parsha Behar deals with the concept of sabbatical year. Many of you who may be working in companies have heard of someone taking a sabbatical. It comes from this week's portion. And what happens is, every 7 years in the land of Israel, we have to leave the land fallow. Don't plant it. It's like Shabbos on steroids. It's and the number 7 in Judaism is very, very profound. First of all, the month with the most holidays is the 7th month, is Tishrei. But I'll give you a bunch of 7s in the physical world and in the spiritual world. 7 continents, 7 days of the week, 7 days of Passover holiday in Israel, 7 days of blessing for a bride and groom, 7 days we count before ritual immersion in a mikveh, 7 days of Sukkot holiday in Israel, 7 notes of the music. The eighth note is really just the first note on a higher octave. 7 weeks from Passover to Shavuos, 7-year cycle for sabbatical year, 7 days of mourning, 7 blessings for the briding room, 7 in the dreams of Pharaoh, 7 times Joshua circled Jericho, 7 times sprinkling the blood of the sacrifices on the altar. So many, many, many sevens. The 7, the Maharal explains, means completion on this world. Okay, it's a completion of this world. So what we're talking about today is the laws about the sabbatical year. The crops become free. That means anybody can go into somebody else's field and take the crops, not to sell, but for themselves, for their own personal use. You're not supposed to be sowing or planting. Those are prohibited, but you can keep them alive just so that the plants survive. And it's relevant even for today. Why do we have such a commandment? And the answer would be, the land belongs to God. And as God says, if we are deserving of it, then we'll keep the land. If we don't, unfortunately, we don't. And unfortunately, twice we were kicked out of the land. And it's the greatest expression of faith in the Almighty, because you understand, if I can stop my business 1 day a week, that's big, all right? If I'm used to working 7 days a week, and I have pressures and this and I have, no, the Shabbos can't work. That's a very big expression of faith in God. If I stop for a whole year, that's really, really, really big. And we have to remember that really, ultimately, God is the ultimate provider, because many times people think, how many people have advanced degrees in whatever, and they're out of work. We have to do our effort, but Hashem is the one who ultimately provides. And it's sort of a little bit of a kind of, it seems like a paradox. So why do I have to work? Why can't I just stay at home and wait for the check to come in the mail? Because that's not how God created the world. He created the world where we have to do our effort on one hand, but on the other hand, we have to know ultimately Hashem provides. How many times do people have where they're trying to work on a client for weeks on end, and they wine and dine him and do all that, and he goes with his cousin Vinny from someplace else, and then another client just pops in and just, without any effort at all. So really, Hashem is the one who provides. Interestingly enough, after 7 Shemitah years, 7 years of doing it, 7 times 7, we don't have this today, 49 years. The 50th year is called the Jubilee year. And that's where, again, there's another aspect of the Jewish slaves go free, the land of Israel, people are returned to the original owners. Now, the question is, why don't we have this idea of the sabbatical year? Let different people be on a different schedule. Your field is on year, this is your year off, yours is the next year, yours is the next year, yours is the next year. What will be the advantage of that?
Different fields?
Yeah, different owners would keep the sabbatical year at different times. What would be the advantage of that?
People could keep working, keep growing some of the crops.
Right, and what would be the benefit?
Everyone.
Everyone would have. You would,
There would
somebody
be,
would, somebody would have.
somebody would have food, right? If we're not planting in the 7th year, we're gonna get messed up. Because how are we gonna survive, right? If we all have to do the same one, which is what the Torah is commanding us, that's a problem. And the answer is something that chapter 25, verse 18. You don't have to look it up, I'll just read it to you. So, you shall perform my decrees and observe my ordinances and perform them, then you shall dwell securely in the land. The land will give its fruit, and you will eat your fill, you will dwell securely upon it. If you will say, what will we eat in the 7th year? Behold, we will not sow and not gather in our crops. I will ordain my blessing for you on the 6th year, and it will yield crops sufficient for you for the 3-year period. You will sow in the 8th year, but you will eat from old crop until the 9th year. Until the arrival of the crop, you will eat the old. So what is Hashem promising? That there's going to be blessing, even though logically it doesn't make sense. How's this going to work? Now, on a technical basis, what some things that are done now is where the people give over the fruit to a court, to a Jewish court, and they sell it just like at minimal cost, so that the produce is given out. But the owner is not the making money on this deal. It's just keeping it going. And there's been some really fascinating stories, and I'll share two of them with you.
Rabbi Czapnik, just a quick question. What
Hi.
about what about the produce that will go bad? Because like fresh fruits and vegetables, I mean, if we get double, it's not really going to last for the whole next year.
Well, again, the person who owns the field can take it and use it for himself, can't sell. Other people can come in and take it and use it. So
Okay.
there's a lot that can be done.
Okay. By the way, I did my first Trumos and Maestros this year. It was incredible.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
you. Kind of moved to Israel and is now doing the things you need to do in Israel. So here's the story from 2007, 2008. A completely secular farmer whose produce is bananas decided that he would undertake to keep the Shemitah this time around. He approached the Karen Hashvius, which is the organization in charge in assisting people on learning how to keep the 7th year. And now they said, we'll keep you, and what happens is they give some sort of stipend to keep people going. They raise money around the world to keep people, to give them some stipend, but they told him they want him to be Shomer Shabbos throughout the Shemitah year. He agreed, and they undertook to cover his farming expenses. In return, all the produce would become the property of the court, and would be distributed in full accordance with Jewish law. Israel suffered a terrible cold spell that year, and for over 2-3 weeks, and bananas don't like cold for some reason. So the products turned brown and became rock solid. The banana farmer knew that he was in deep trouble when the relentless cold didn't let up for over a week. He lived far away from it, and he began to receive calls from his neighbors, farmers who had orchards bordering his, complaining bitterly that the entire banana crop had been destroyed. He saw his time to inspect the damage, and he traveled there, and he passed one orchard after another, and all of them took a terrible beating from the cold. When he got to his orchard, he couldn't believe it. All of his bananas were yellow, and as if like it was a part of a different land, and he couldn't believe it. And he got out of his car to double check, and he called the Karen Hashvius and said, Karanes, and a miracle occurred. A miracle occurred, and it's a modern miracle. I mean, you can see, it's a little hard to see. I'll show it in the picture here. The crop on top got ruined, and the bananas are fine. And many of the other farmers who saw this said for next time they want to join too. Another story that took place was the
terrorist story, the infiltration thing.
no, that's the third story. This next one is
Okay.
Again, a person wanted to observe Shemitah. After Shemitah, he went to make a l'chaim. He finished the Shemitah year, and this man Effie went to the local grain distribution, and he said that the distribution had ended, and the seeds were given to the farmers who didn't observe Shemitah, but there was a large quantity of inferior celery seeds that they were about to discard, and he could take whatever he wanted. So Eli said, okay, I'll take the celery seeds. And he planted celery. And he couldn't believe it. It was inferior celery, but it grew unbelievably. And 3 times its normal crop, and they grew to a record height, reaching his hips. And everybody were making fun of him. All his neighbors said, what are you going to do with all the celery? And Eli said, I did my share, now Hashem will do the rest. Even the rabbis was something, I don't know who's going to do all the celery, but okay. One day he gets a call from the director of regional distribution. Do you have celery seeds that I gave you? What did you do? I planted them. Everyone's calling me Mr. Celery. Well, I need an enormous amount. Able to supply? No problem. Any amount you needed. The market price of celery is 50 cents per head. However, you can charge whatever you want. He said, what happened? He said, in the recent frost in Europe, the entire celery crop there was ruined, and the Europeans are desperate for the vegetable to add to their soups. I've been inundated with requests. You can supply me with celery. I'll arrange for the air freight to England, Holland, Belgium, France, and the rest of Europe. Wasting no time, Eli hired hundreds of workers from the entire Jordan Valley to harvest and pack his 24/6, hundreds of delivery trucks delivered. And he bought himself a luxurious automobile, which he called my Shemitah Cadillac. And he wasted no time publicizing the miracle. He told all his fellow farmers, you derided me for an entire year. Look how Hashem rewards those who keep Shemitah. And it's, again, fascinating. And the story that Connie said was a fascinating story. It was the Shemitah year. When does the Shemitah year begin? Anyone have an idea? When does the year begin? When does the year begin? Rosh Hashanah. Thank you. So they wanted to get enough grain for Pesach, the wheat. They wanted to get enough grain before Pesach. Matzah bakeries wanted to get grain before Pesach, but they wanted to cut it early before Shemitah, so they could use it to make matzahs. So they looked around and found a field in the southern part of Israel that had a huge amount of grain, and they wanted to buy the whole stock from him, and it was ripe enough that they could cut it. And they offered the guy a deal, and he said, well, I don't want to charge more. I'll wait. I'll try. I said, look, we're offering to buy the entire stock. Give us a good price. They did, and they cut the whole thing before Rosh Hashanah. And what happened was, that's when the Israelis first found out that there were tunnels that were going from Gaza into Israel. And some Arab terrorists came up from the tunnel, and they expected a field full with wheat that they could hide in, but the wheat had all been cut right before Rosh Hashanah, and the spotters immediately spotted them, and the Israelis were able to take them out. So there's a lot of beautiful miracles of keeping the Shemitah. And again, like I said, it's a big test, and it's a big affirmation of faith, but that's what they did. And that's what the farmers still do in the land of Israel now. Another thing that it says in the Parsha is a mitzvah of you shall not aggrieve his fellow and fear God. And it says about aggrieving a fellow twice. So why does it say it twice? And the answer is, don't cause pain to somebody else. One is personally, and the other one is financially. Okay? Which means, what does it mean to cause someone financial pain? Selling old items that as new when they're really old, don't overcharge. And also don't make a person feel badly, like reminding them of their past behavior. It is an interesting law, going into a store and making the salesman crazy when you have no intention of buying. Because he's hoping he's going to get something. Now you can go in and say, I'm just, window shopping, I'm just checking it out. But if you don't say anything, saying hurtful things to somebody and no nicknames. There was a great story about somebody who had a nickname, and this man called this guy the nickname, and the Rabbi heard him and says, "You can't say that." And the man said, "Everybody calls him that." He says, "There's plenty of room in hell for everybody." But you're not allowed to call people, fatso, whatever, a derogatory name. Yes.
One question.
That's it? Only one? Go ahead. I'm sure something else will come up.
Someone says something hurtful.
Yes.
That's not like intentional, it's an emotional hurtful. Is that also not allowed?
Well, it depends. I'm not sure exactly what you mean. You have a specific example?
Someone says, how dare you want to break the piano?
Well, again, that is a hurtful thing to say, and the person should find a better way of saying it without getting angry. So,
Okay.
I would say that now, wanting to break the piano is not such a good idea either. But just using your example, but there are ways of saying the same thing.
Just not as.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. Now, interesting. Why does it say in the same verse, and fear God? Because God knows what your intention is. Don't say, "Oh, I didn't mean anything. I just was saying something. I didn't mean anything." No. God knows exactly what you meant. So don't forget that. Interesting question. What's worse, financial aggrieving somebody or verbal? Why? You are right, because property is just money. And money, you can make amends easier, just pay back the money, right? And the pain of the personal insult could last longer. A beautiful story that oral tradition tells us that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel had a very bright non-Jewish slave, and he asked him, "Go get me a food that's good." And he comes and he brings him tongue. Okay, the next day it says, "Go bring me food that's not good." And he brings him tongue. And he says, "I don't get it. Why for the good food he's saying tongue, and for the good food is tongue, and bad food?" And he says, depends how you use the tongue. If you use your tongue well, then it can be good. If you use your tongue badly, it can be bad. So there's an interesting question in Jewish law. If someone insults you, are you allowed to defend yourself and insult them back? So interesting. So in the heat of the moment, there are opinions that say that it's understandable, you got hurt, but it's very meritorious not to. As a matter of fact, there's blessings for not answering back. And I'll share a quick story about a person who went to a great rabbi and asked for a blessing. They wanted to have children. They didn't have children. And the rabbi said, "I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. But if somebody is publicly humiliated and doesn't answer, if you can get a blessing from that person, then that can make an impact, and you could have a child from that." Okay, so Act 2, Scene 2. There's a man, a couple that's moving into an apartment, and a neighbor comes out and says, "Don't move into this apartment. They took over some of my property when they made the porch or whatever. Don't move in." So they went and looked into it a little more. They liked the apartment, and they asked the rabbi, and the rabbi said, "Look, based upon the information he gave me, this lady her information is not accurate, and you can move into the apartment. It's fine. You can buy it, rent it, whatever it was. And they did. And this woman was at some event, maybe a bris, celebration of a circumcision, whatever. And the neighbor lady comes in screaming, "You took that apartment and you're taking over my place. You're a thief. You're this." And she wanted to get up to defend herself. And the woman sitting next to her says, "Please don't answer back. I've been waiting for this opportunity for 3 years." And she sits down and says, "What are you talking about?" Says, "I was told that if someone embarrasses somebody in public and doesn't respond, that if I get a blessing from that person to have a child, then the Almighty may make it that I can have a child." So this woman did not respond, and of course they're both crying, and she blessed her very warmly and said, "May, in the merit of me not responding to this public humiliation, may you have a child." And sure enough, she did. It's a very beautiful, beautiful story. Another thing in the parsha is helping the poor. And what's the best way to help a poor person? So the Rambam, Maimonides, has 8 levels of giving charity. Number 1 being making a partnership, or giving the person a job, or giving a person a substantial gift or loan so that they can start their own business. Why is that the best form of charity?
You're helping the person become self-sufficient.
Ding, 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 correct. Helping, you see, she has Israeli ear now, so she's smarter. She knows more stuff. So yes, so you're giving the person a job, they're making self-sufficient, they don't have to come, they don't need a handout, right? Number 2, neither the giver or the taker know who gave the money. Why is that very virtuous?
You don't embarrass the person.
Nobody's embarrassed. Very good, correct. And that's why we have an organization here in town called Tomkei Shabbos, where people donate to Tomkei Shabbos, and they give out the money or food baskets, whatever food, to people. And the person who's giving it doesn't know who gave the money, and the person who's getting it doesn't know who gave it to them. Next, level 3 is the giver knows, but the recipient does not. Why is that good? At least the recipient is not going to be embarrassed. "Oh, I know that guy, he gave me money," right? Number 4 is the recipient knows, but the giver does not. So the recipient knows he gave it, but the other guy doesn't know that he was the one who received it. 5 is the giver gives without being asked. That's pretty big. They save the person the shame of having to ask. Excuse me, and they're giving it, everything's fine. The level 6 is the giver giving after being asked. Well, at least you're giving. 7 is gives inadequate amount, but with a smile. And the 8th one is giving unwillingly without a smile, but at least you're giving. So these are the different levels of charity that the Rambam teaches us. It's the old line, teaching the person how to fish rather than giving them the fish. Reb Chaim Sanzer, a great Hasidic rabbi, a woman came into and says, "I'm selling apples and no one's buying them." He says, "What do you mean no one's buying them? They're wonderful apples. I'll be a partner with you." And he goes outside and says, "Who wants apples? Who wants Reb Chaim Sanzer, a great rabbi, selling apples. Everyone came and sold the whole thing, and he gave her the money. This is an interesting story, but from the Talmud. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had a dream the night of Rosh Hashanah, where a person's income is determined, that his 2 nephews would lose the sum of 700 dinners in the course of the coming year. Okay. So after Yom Tov, he visited his nephews and ordered them to take charge of supporting the poor. From where we get the funds, support them from your own money and mark down the amount of money you distribute. If you lose on the deal, I'll pay you back at the end of the year. They listened to their uncle, and They distribute money to the poor. To the end of the year, a government official came to them demanding that they pay the government 700 dinars. And they didn't know how to react. And the soldiers appeared and put them into jail. And he went to see them and says, "How much money did you pay out of the record?" They looked at them and they paid 683 dinars. So he said, "Let me tell you what to do. Give me another 17 dinars and I guarantee you'll leave jail." What a weird idea. We're here being held for captivity for owing 700 dinars. Why, we don't know. And now he's saying 17 will work. Yeah, just listen to me. Don't worry. They gave Rabbi Yochanan the 7 dinars and he slipped him the coins and they were let free. And the nephew said, "We don't understand what happened here." He said, "I had a heavenly vision on Rosh Hashanah that you're going to lose 700 dinars. So since you're destined to have that expense, I advise you to become supporters of the poor. Better to spend on that amount on tzedakah. Why did you tell us about the dream?" Says, "We would have spent the remaining 17 dinars. I prefer to keep it a secret from you so that it showed that you gave it for the reason of giving charity and not for any other reason." Everyone get the story? He was able to see that they were going to lose 700. He told them to give charity. They gave 683, $17 left. He used to bribe the guard and got him out. And that was it. And this is a fascinating idea. The fascinating idea is that we're going to have expenses anyway. Might as well use the money for charity. And, you can get a simple modern day example of this. I made too much money. I need a tax deduction. So give it to charity and then you'll have the tax deduction, right? Another fascinating idea that charity saves from death. Tzedakah tatzil mimavos. That's, by the way, why people like giving chai. 18 is life. People want to donate $18 million to Jaylee. Hasn't happened yet, but in any event, but it's why chai, because charity saves from death. Is a very nice very nice. The Talmud says 10 matters were created, each stronger than the other. Rock is strong, but iron breaks it. Iron is strong, but fire melts it. Fire is strong, but water extinguishes it. Water is strong, but the clouds carry it. Clouds are strong, but the wind disperses them. Wind is strong, but the body holds it. The body is strong, but fear breaks it. Death, however, is the mightiest than all of the aforementioned, but tzedakah is more powerful yet because it rescues from death. And finally, another halacha in this week's parsha is not to charge interest. Can't charge interest. And there's a sweet medrash. The medrash says that, excuse me, not the medrash. The Chassam Sofer gave someone a loan, and the loan, the man invested it well, and it worked well, and he came back to pay back the loan. And as a gift, he gave a diamond to the Chassam Sofer. And the Chassam Sofer took the diamond and looked at it and checked it. Said, "Is anything wrong with the diamond?" "No, it's perfect. It's great. But if I would keep it, I would be flawed. I would be flawed because I would have been taking interest from you. I don't understand. So why'd you look at the diamond?" I said, "The diamond is beautiful, but the mitzvah of not taking interest is even more beautiful." Now, just as a practical level, you should know that there is a mechanism for a person to do loans for business, to get it from a Jewish bank, which obviously does charge interest, but it's a whole complicated procedure called heter isker, and it has to be done with the court, with a document from the court. It's complicated for another time, but there is such a thing. But generally, we don't charge interest. Now let's talk about Bechukosai. Time's offline, so let's try to get through some of Bechukosai, the last portion, Chumash Vayikra. The first question that we're going to start with is, does the Parsha teach us anything about Islam and Christianity? And the second one is the physical world impacted by spiritual concepts? So number one, If in my statutes you will keep, that's the second of the two portions. And one of the answers of that is not just to study Torah, but do it diligently, to really toil in Torah. And what happens is this portion has what's called the Torah, which says, if you keep the Torah, you'll be blessed. And if you don't, God forbid, then very bad curses will happen. That's part of what's in the Parsha. So question number one is, so it starts with im, with the word im, if, which is starts with an aleph, and the blessings end with a saf, komamius, which means if you keep the Torah from aleph to taf, aleph from im and komamius, saf, then you'll get the blessing. So, did we ever have this in Jewish history? Yes. Yeshua, times of King David and Solomon, Cheskio Melech. So the question that we have to ask is, why is the listing in the Parsha only physical blessings and not spiritual blessings? Surprisingly, all the blessings are physical. So there's several answers to this. Number one, answer A, the obvious spiritual deeds will have a spiritual reward. Hashem wants us to know that even the doing the right thing will create spiritual reward, physical rewards as well. And it's interesting to note because when there was a survey being done of the happiest people in the United States, one of the categories were Orthodox Jews, which was surprising because there's restrictions and expenses that we have that nobody else has. But that was one of the categories. And the reason for that is because you have a person that has a meaningful life, and hopefully Hashem is also giving you blessing. And the survival of the Jewish people defies logic. Answer B, why does the Torah list only the physical rewards and not the spiritual ones? Spiritual rewards we can't see all the time. So God wanted us to see that there's going to be a physical reward as well that you can see. See the supernatural in the physical. Answer number C, it's not really a reward. The Almighty is just going to give us opportunities to do more mitzvahs with greater ease and ability. The rain will come in the right time to nourish the crops at the right time, and it'll be not in inconvenient times. When's a good time for it to rain? Friday night is a good time for it to rain because people are not going to be traveling, hopefully as much. And there'll be a blessing in the quality and the quantity. We'll be happy with less, something that we can all work on, being content with less. There'll be peace. That's the ultimate blessing. There is a story with the reign of Yeshio, king of Yehuda. The Egyptian king wanted to go through Israel to attack another person, and he sent a message to Yeshio requesting to let his troops go through. Eretz Yisrael, Yeshio refused. And he said, I will not allow a sword to pass through the land. And King Yeshio personally was righteous, and he thought that everybody else was righteous as well. But he tried to get rid of the idols in Israel, and he sent delegates to check all the houses to make sure there were no idols. And unfortunately, what people did was they were deceived by the people. The people installed idols in two parts of a door. So when you open the door, you don't see the idol. When you close the door, the idol is there. And Yirmiyahu, the prophet, advised him, don't fight them, let them go through. They're not here to fight against you. But Yeshua thought the people were righteous enough, they had the blessing of peace. And unfortunately, Jeremiah told him, don't let them pass through. They're not going to attack you. But he didn't listen to him. And ultimately, he brought his army to stop them. And the Jewish army was defeated. And King Yeshua was pierced with arrows. And he came back and he said, you were right. Hashem is righteous. Because I rebelled against his mouth. I didn't listen to what Yirmiyahu said.
Rabbi,
Yes.
why did the king think the people were righteous if he went and had to get rid of all the idols?
No, he thought he was successful in getting rid of idol worship. But unfortunately, he was somewhat successful, but he was not fully successful. Because like I said, people were hiding them.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, the Medrash tells us how a person departs from Torah, and it has a whole step-by-step program, and I'm not going to go through all the steps now, because a lot of it is not that, it is relevant to us, some of it is relevant to us today, but I'll do one or two. The first one is he doesn't study Torah diligently. Step 2 is failure to fulfill the mitzvahs. 3, despising Torah observant Jews, hating Torah scholars, etc., etc., etc. But why am I saying not all of that is relevant to us today? Because the vast majority of Jews today may have some of these characteristics, but the reason they don't is because they have no clue about Judaism. That's why next week the title of my class on the holiday Shavuos is the unknown holiday. People don't know about it. They know, what is this holiday Shavuos? What is it? What's it all about? Passover I heard of, and Sukkot I heard of a little bit. And the Parsha deals with the terrible things that will happen to the Jewish people when they don't abide by the Torah. And interestingly enough, my father of blessed memory was in the concentration camp, and many non-religious Jews derided him. You're a believer in God, look where we are, look what happened to us, and this makes sense to you? And most of the time people didn't say anything. Finally he got angry and he banged on the table. He said, does it make sense to you that an Austrian painter should become Chancellor of Germany? Does that make sense to you? No. It doesn't. So he says, that's all, we don't understand it, but that's meaning this God's plan is there. And they backed off, they respected him for what he said. Now here's a fascinating statement that the Torah makes us, even though it goes through 7 groups of terrible curses against the Jewish people. So much so, by the way, that there's a custom to read it low in the synagogue because they're pretty bad stuff. The land will be desolate. The survivors, I'll bring weak. I'll scatter you among the nations. I will unsheath the sword after you. Your land will be desolate, and your cities will be ruined. By the way, parenthetically, just as an aside, before the Jews came, there were Jews always living in Israel, but before many of the Jews came, Israel was desolate. There was nothing going on. Mark Twain has a whole article about his visiting the Holy Land, and like, there's no way anyone would want to live here. There was like nothing going on. The Jews came, but that, by the way, is when a lot of Arabs started coming because the Jews started building it up. The survivors among you, I will bring weakness in their hearts in the land of their foes, and the sound of rustling leaf will pursue them. They will flee as one flees the sword, and they will fall, but without a pursuer. They will stumble over one another in flight. Really bad things. So what do Christians say about the Jews? What's the story with the Jews? We messed up, and the covenant was given to them, right? Islam says that we never had the covenant, which all theirs. But listen to what the Torah says. In the midst of this, all of this. But despite all this, while they will be in the land of their enemies, I will not have been revolted by them, nor will I have rejected them to obliterate them, to annul my covenant with them. For I am Hashem, their God. I will remember for them the covenant of the ancients, for whom I have taken out of the land of Egypt before the eyes of the nations, to be a God unto them. I am God. So God says, even though I turned my wrath onto the Jewish people, they're still my people. They're still my people. I will end with two things, very powerful. The Meshech Chochmah, who lived in the early 1900s, writes, what is the history of Jews in exile? And he says they get thrown out of a country, they come to a place, they reestablish Jewish institutions, synagogues, schools, and Judaism starts flourishing, and they eventually start becoming acclimated with the culture that they're in. And then what's going to happen is they're going to become too acclimated. And then the only way that they're going to retain their Jewishness is for God to have the people turn on them. And they will be persecuted, and they will be chased out of the land, and they will go to another place, and the cycle will start over again. And then he adds to me very prophetically, and those who think that Berlin is Jerusalem will face the same thing. This is, again, pre-World War II. He's predicting that this is what's going to happen. And unfortunately, many of us feel very comfortable in the United States, but guess what? In the United States, there's a lot of reminders here too. So the Meshech Chochmah is just a very powerful, powerful lesson to remind us about that ultimately we need to be connected to Hashem and His Torah, and that being very safe and comfortable in America doesn't necessarily guarantee anything. My father, of blessed memory, had a friend, Yossel Friedenson of blessed memory, who had a friend that he was in the concentration camp with called Akiva Goldstoff. And what happened was there's one German officer in this concentration camp that they thought not as terrible as all the other ones. He went over to him and said, we'd like to have flour to make matzahs on Pesach. And the German looked at them and laughed and said, don't you see your God has forsaken you? And he answered, I'll say it in Yiddish and then translate, nicht den ganzen and nicht auf ewig. Not completely and not forever. Don't you see your God has forsaken you? Not completely and not forever. And they ultimately, he said, we'll never defeat you. If you can say that, even in the concentration camp, where we're killing you and gassing you and doing everything to you and starving you. And that's the line that we have to remember. We say it on Pesach night. Not only the Egyptians were not the only ones who stood up against us. In every generation, the nations come to try to destroy us. But God will save us from them. That doesn't mean every individual will make it, but the Jewish people will survive and the Torah will survive. So I'm going to give out a poem, which I'm going to read to you as well, that I wrote, because the Parsha is Im Bechukosai, if my statutes you will keep. So I'll read it aloud so the people on Zoom can hear it. Yeah,
What was that again that we said, like they said in the concentration camp, not for?
That the German asked him, didn't your God forsake you? And he answered them, not completely and not forever.
How do you say forever in Yiddish?
Nicht ganz and nicht auf ewig. So if you follow my decrees, Vayikra 26:3. If is a word of immense power. If I know I am a soul with infinite potential, if I understand at every moment I have choices to make, if I look to find opportunities that come my way, if I know I'm not locked into my past history or habits, if I know I can change and grow, if I look to use my time well, if I choose what is right regardless of what others think, if I can relate to all people with respect and kindness, if I can reach for the stars but keep my feet on the ground, if I can cherish every moment of life, if I know if I fail I should keep on trying, if I can stand tall yet remain humble, if I can see God's hand in my life, if I can aspire to make every moment a special memory, if I can steal moments with extra prayer, Torah study, and acts of kindness, if I look to see the beauty of God's creation, if I can recognize my own potential, if is indeed a word of immense power. Okay. We're opening for questions, thoughts, comments.
And Rabbi, could you
Yes.
hold that up on the screen and I could take a screenshot of it?
Sure. I don't know if you can see it.
Well, okay,
know what?
no, hold it
Hold on
still.
a second. Hold on a second. Let me try something else. I don't know how to do. I'm not so computer savvy, but let me try something here.
Well, I think that would be good enough with no disrespect. I think it would be good enough.
Okay, it's not disrespect. I'm just trying. I wanted to make it bigger so you could see better. But
Okay, now if you raise it up a little bit, I'll get the bottom.
Maybe we can get a copy of it somehow.
yeah,
Or-
there's a thing called the office and a thing called a telephone, and you can call and or email and you can ask for a copy of it. Did you get them both, Mark?
I believe I did. Yes, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Okay. Any questions, thoughts, or comments? Questions, thoughts, or comments, anybody? Okay, have a great week. You're welcome. Take care, Dan. Good to see you. Connie, always a pleasure. David, take care.
Thank
Thank
you. Bye-bye. Enjoy your day. I'm heading
Where
to
are you,
bed.
Connie? Where are you now?
I have to go buy fruits and vegetables. I'm in Rami Levy.
What is that?
The
Supermarket?
grocery. Yeah, it's a supermarket.
Okay, enjoy.
Here,
Take
you
Michelle,
wanna
take
see?
care. All the
Show
best.
you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. You're welcome.